Hey everyone, Alex here at Hammer Performance. Today we're going to go over how to pull apart a set of rubber mount cases. Before we get started though, you're going to need it to get it to this stage, which is pretty much torn down. I suggest getting a service manual for your bike. You can rebuild the whole bike with that, so you don't even need us. But so I'd get that for your bike and just follow it step by step. I'll give you some tips on how to do it and kind of show you visually, but grab that manual. Before we tear it apart though, you're going to want to get it to this stage, which is as torn apart as possible. They're still pretty darn heavy at this point with everything off of it. So before you pull it out of the bike, out of the frame, you're going to want to tear everything you possibly can off the bike. Starter, cylinder heads, obviously. You can pull the cam chest apart, cover off. Let's see. What else? Oh, primary. There's a lot of weight back there, so pull all this, the motor mount, or the front motor sprocket, all that. What else? Pretty much that. Follow the manual. It'll tell you step by step, the order that you need to get the mounts out and everything like that. And then pull it over to a bench and you can start tearing it apart. One note, we pulled this out of the bike and notice that if you want to come in here, the rear mount on this is an 07, sheared a bolt there. And I'm not sure if that's why they did it, but in 2014 they converted this whole rear pivot setup from a 2-bolt setup that holds a swing arm on to a single kind of axle that goes through there. And I know you can convert these to that 2014 and later setup. I'm not exactly sure what's involved, what parts you need, but you can look into that and convert that over to the single axle. So other than that, after you get it over to the bench, you're going to want to pull off the drive pulley, the final drive pulley here. Pretty easy. You don't need a lot of special tools. Check out what we got here. That's pretty much all you need to pull these cases apart. To reassemble them, however, there are some special tools involved. You'll need a press if you're doing any bearing changes. There's a special tool for the neutral detent arm that you need to reassemble it. That's about it for reassembly, but there are some special tools. It is a little bit trickier putting it back together, but pulling it apart, as you can see, is super easy. I'll show you that. We'll do another video on putting it together for you guys that want to do that. If you're doing like a 90-inch big bore kit where you're boring the cases and reassembling it, I'll show you how to do that in a later video. But pulling them apart is super easy. Okay, so we'll start here. We already pulled these cases apart, not thinking about doing this video. So all these bolts are really loose. It shouldn't be too difficult to take apart. Anything especially these smaller ones, heat is your friend. So heat them up, break that Loctite loose, and then you can get the bolts out. Pull that off. That's just the locking plate for this big nut here. This is a reverse thread. So to the right is going to loosen. So use an air gun, follow the manual, take that off. And this just pulls off. Okay. Spin it around. You don't have to remove this, but it's pretty easy to do. Just 4 bolts hold that on, Torx, and I believe it's a T20. That. Pull that off. Before we do that, we'll pull this little kind of deflector plate that holds the wires in. I'm getting into anything. A couple bolts there. Switch over to our Torx. Just 4 little bolts hold that on. Yeah, we're working on a Sportster today, so we're wearing gloves. Don't want to get too dirty. Okay, once those are loose, pop that loose. Then as you do this, you may need to take a little tool. Be careful, you don't want to tear up the cases or tear up that little rubber protector thing, but you can sometimes force it through with your finger, just pop it out.
Sometimes I'll use a big fat screwdriver to kind of start to pry it in to get it going. And
yeah, to set an edge in or something. Yeah, it can be a bear to get out sometimes. So once that's out, slide that off, set it aside. Okay, I think at this point we're ready to split them apart.
I'll take the pinion gear.
Oh yeah, we can take this off first, so we're not banging it on the race there. This will be pretty tight. Need to remove it. Likely need an air gun, but we have it pretty loose right now. Take that off. Hold your rods from spinning. Then all this stuff slides off. So set that aside. Inspect your gear when you do that. If you're doing a build with us, you'll probably be swapping over to a bronze oil pump gear, so you can check your old one. But yeah, just check the gear. Make sure there's no wear in places that you need to just pay attention to and keep note of.
Just for note as well, we did pull the keyway out of there, so before we put it back together, so there will be a keyway there.
Yeah.
You may need to use a little puller or something to kind of get
that gear off.
Drive
yeah.
Off of there.
Okay. Start over here. You want to break these bolts loose just slightly before you go loosen them all, just to keep the cases from warping too much. I don't know if that's a big issue or not, but I guess that goes with anything like this. Just kind of break them loose slightly and then go removing them. You may have Allen sockets. I'm not sure what year they switched to the socket cap bolts, but it's pretty much the same.
Rubber mounts. Anything pre-rubber mount is going to have an Allen bolt.
Okay, so we're at least there. Speed it up here with our handy tool. Here on the back, there's a couple more. Okay, ready to split these. We already had these apart, so the sealant's already broken. Do you want to grab me a mallet? I can probably get them apart without a mallet. Thanks. But you're gonna need one to split these if you haven't, you know, already broken them loose. So just be careful tapping this apart. You know, you don't want to put any force on stuff that can break, obviously. So you can kind of tap on this, the pivot part back there, and the front mount up here, just kind of up tight where it's thickest. Just be careful when you're doing it. Just tap it apart. Again, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you guys, hopefully. The seal is good from the factory. But we already have these apart, so it's pretty much there. Once you get it there, I want to pull off probably this side first. So set it on its back and then just kind of jiggle it. Try not to, you know, if you're not replacing the race there or anything, you want to be careful pulling these apart, not to bang anything up. Just gonna jiggle it, then it'll come all loose off the transmission. There's some bearings in there. Like that. Set this aside. Okay, you can leave the transmission in if you're, depending on what you're doing. If you're just going to replace stuff like the bearings and just reseal it or something like that, then leave it in there. Obviously, if you need to do if you're boring the cases, then pull it out. It is pressed in there, so follow the manual on how to remove that. I don't know if we'll show that in our next video or not, but probably not. So check out the manual on that. But other than that, we'll go ahead and slide the crank out here. Just kind of hold the rods and just pull on this flywheel against the case and rock it as necessary, but it should just pull straight out of here. Like that. There you go. Put that aside. So at this point, you're ready to pull the transmission out. If you need to, there's some snap rings holding it in on the back side.
So the transmission, you're going to go ahead and press the shafts through the bearings. You're going to take a big screwdriver and tap out your shifter fork shift, or your shift fork shafts that are there. These shafts will go ahead and come right out of here once you tap those out, and you're able to take your shifter drum and your shifter forks all out of there before you go ahead and press out the transmission shafts there. You'll also need to take this nut off of here, or this actually bolt out of here, before you're able to press that one out as well.
Okay. If you're going to clean these, which we highly recommend if you got it at this stage, pull off a few of these oil kind of passages. Stuff can get blocked. There's like really small holes and stuff on this. Take those out when you go to clean them.
Why don't you go ahead and do that?
So this guy we already have loose, but what size is that? 15/16. Just go ahead and break that out. There's not a lot going on here, but there is a check ball down there that needs to come out and spring.
It's a good idea to take those out of there when you're cleaning. Otherwise, if you don't take that out, the check ball sits up in there, and when you clean and run fluids through it and everything, any debris that's in there is going to get pushed right up behind that check ball, and you'll never get it out of there. And then once you start the motor, it sends it right back through the motor again.
Okay, yeah, so after you get that off, you can pull the squirters off. It's a T15. Pretty straightforward there. if you do this, you're going to want to replace the gaskets that sit underneath. Inspect them too and make sure that, you know, you can get air through them or whatever, and that they're not blocked. Pull those off. Then you just want to clean in there, you know, when you go to do that. Other than that, that's how you take the cases apart. Yeah, we're going to go over another video on putting them back together. So you can see there aren't a lot of special tools at all taking them apart, but putting them back together there are, and we'll show you those. Yeah, do you have any other?
I don't think so. A lot of it will cover in the assembly case.
Yeah, you probably want to watch both those videos even before taking it apart, just so you're comfortable with doing the next step on sealing them back up and reassembly. But yeah, other than that, if you have any questions, shoot them below. Send us an email. Other than that, please, what is it?
You know the saying, come on now.
It's, yeah, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram. There you go. Have a great day, guys.